This is episode 245 of the Focused Mindset podcast. I'm so glad that you're here to join me today to talk about how we can adjust our mindset before the holiday season. Going into a time where we're going to see so many family members, sometimes that ensues a certain type of anxiety in people because they're not sure how it's going to go with maybe people they don't always get along with, or maybe it didn't go well in the past. This is a normal thing for people to think about. And we're just going to talk about some of the ways we can adjust our mindset using some solution focused skills. I'm excited that you're here. Let's get started. Let's have some great conversations using the solution focused approach. I'm Cher. And as a school counselor, I've learned a lot about how to lead with hope. I've talked about it on the TEDx stage. It's what we discuss right here. And I want to thank you for following this show. You know you can head over to thefocusedmindset.com to get more. Right now, let's level up our mindset so we can be solution focused. Let's go. I've been thinking all day long about an episode that might get us all ready and excited and charged up going into the holiday season. But really, anytime you're listening to it, it can help you refresh your mindset to be able to be the person that you want to be moving into any situation. It can be tough. The problem that many of us have is that the fear of the unknown, like we just don't know how it's going to go. There's always certain memories that we have of the past when things maybe didn't go so well. It's common for us to have a particular family member that we don't see eye to eye with. Or I wonder, how is it that you normally get through that? Do you just kind of hope for the best and go for it? Or are you in the category, I think, of most people that they just say, whatever happens, happens, and go, they just go and show up. And then afterwards debrief about how it actually went. I've been practicing for quite a few years now, trying to be very intentional going into each family get together. I have tons of brothers and sisters, and depending on what family we're getting together with, because my mom and dad are divorced, it could be one of many different people. And my husband's side of the family, although he only has a couple brothers, it's also just a completely different vibe than the other. It was probably, I want to think about how many years ago it was now, that it has to be at least a good 5-6 years, that I thought very deliberately about how I affect the situation when I walk in. I no longer wanted to be reactive. I wanted to be proactive in my family. I didn't want to just do whatever seemed natural. And then if it didn't go just right, or if some type of rude thing I said happened, and I didn't want to be able to be accountable for that and aware. And this was a conscious decision that I made, but it was a lot harder to follow through with because it takes a level of mindfulness that we don't normally do going into an event. But I think it's really paid off. And since I've seen the results of it year after year, I wanted to share that with you this year. It goes along with so many of the concepts that we already talk about on this podcast about communication, and also with asking ourselves solution-focused questions about how we want things to go. I'm going to offer it in a simple 3-step process. You'll be able to use these skills to be able to sprinkle into even the craziest times when you're getting ready and getting out the door and wrapping gifts and all of these type of things. Also work events, and when you're getting together with your clients, those of you that are counselors like me, it's always important for us to be intentional. Why? Because we are writing our story. As we progress through our life, we're creating our memories in the very moment that we're in. When we honor how precious and wonderful that is, it becomes easier to step away from the norm of just however we act, and say, I'm going to be a little more deliberate. What if I can be a part of the good that happens this season, of the memories that I can be proud of the funny stories, the delicious moments that we just cherish forever. And I think that you can. We're human, and there's going to be bickering, and there's going to be disagreements, and there's going to be times when we're frustrated, and times when we're busy, and times when we're missing the mark. But those things don't have to define you. They don't have to be what you define in others. You don't have to say, you always, and then point out the things that are the most stressful. You can say, you always, and point out the things that go well. And it's important for us to be intentional and not being scared and saying, I've got to do everything just right, because if I don't, everything will just explode. Rather, doing it out of a sense of peace and a sense of knowing and believing that things can go right. I really think that is a solution-focused mindset right there. But I want to offer 3 now. The first is to plan ahead, to write your own narrative. The second is to take a beat when necessary. And the third is to choose your vibe. So let's first talk about plan ahead. I feel like planning ahead is more than just going through a list of, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do it, this is what I'd like to get done, this is, how I want to achieve that. Make a plan, make a plan. What I mean by plan ahead is to take moments to reflect upon the things that you do that you're proud of, that you do well, that come across well and people respond well to, and the things that they don't respond well to, and be real with yourself. When you take that inventory and journal about it, then all of a sudden you begin to realize there's some things that I do that I want to leave. I want to leave far, far away from the next place that I go. And there's other parts of me that I want to intentionally just place inside of me so I can be that person. And I think that's the first step of us planning ahead with intentionality. The second part of us planning ahead comes in the form of reflecting upon the people that you're going to be visiting and the people you're going to be with and being real about who those people are. Sometimes there's people that have personalities or beliefs that aren't like yours. Isn't it a lot more healthy for us to acknowledge that in our mind, review that and understand that, and then take a breath and accept it? Accept that there's going to be a moment that might rub you wrong, or something said that you don't appreciate, or something that's frustrating. Whatever that is, and it popped in your mind right as I said it. The family member that I'm talking about, or the loved one, and what could be said to trigger. And because you know that so well, you have a power to plan. You have a power to be proactive. And not that you're expecting the worst, because you're not. You're expecting the best. But if that comes out, you get to choose how you're going to react. You get to choose what kind of person you want to be in that moment, and how you want to be remembered, and how you want to be portrayed. You cannot control others. You cannot hope that they don't. Oh, I hope they don't, or else. Oh, I just, can't believe that so-and-so always makes a big deal about, every time someone's late, they make a big deal about it. And that just irks me. I hope they don't do that. You can't control that. Set a random example. If there's a family member that seems to be that kind of person that always points out when someone's doing something wrong, and to you, you just remember every bit of it, then all of a sudden your reality is being affected by their inability to be their best self, is now affecting your ability to be your best self. Look, part of planning is just doing an inventory of the people and who they are, and choosing to take a breath and say, I accept that's who they are. I expect that they'll live in with the person that they are, and it won't surprise me. And therefore, I get to choose how I react to it. I'm going to be more of an observer. For me, I've adopted an attitude of saying, if something happens that's really getting a little chaotic or out of control, I want to step back into an observer mode if possible, unless it's necessary for me to step in because of maybe an injustice or something that is needed. I will step back and be like, is this my business to get into? Is this my battle to fight? Is this my job to fix? Is this the thing I'm going to choose to get all worked up about? And I can't believe how me just honoring the people for who they are, whether I enjoy a quality of them or not, and then saying, when and if that comes up, I'll be able to observe it and just be curious and be like, yes, I wonder what's going on with them, but that's happening. There are times when we have to be intentional about choosing not to be involved in a situation. There are also times where we can look back and say, I wish I would have done more. I wish I could have done more, and I wasn't bold enough. Intentionality is important for that too. See, it works both ways. If there's been a time where you've had your child say, something happened, Mom, and you didn't stick up for me and you weren't there for me and you didn't have my back. Well, you're like, well, I was busy. I was talking with the ants and da 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 da. Maybe your intentional moment is saying, I am going to be in tune with my kids. They're the most important people in my life. After I leave this event, immediate family are the ones that I want to make sure I honor. I don't know. There's so many different circumstances that we're not going to sit here on this podcast and cycle through them. But what we can do is reflect right now on a time when you wish that it could have gone better, and then say, how can I plan for that? That is not focusing on anything that you shouldn't be focusing on. It's smart. It's smart gameplay, if you will. Now, let's turn the corner to what can really, really, truly make a difference. And when we begin to not only let ourselves remember those negative things that seem to stick in our minds so easily, but how about we also think about the things we appreciate about the people, the things that light up the room, the things we enjoy about them. Let's not let a quality that maybe they're not even aware of or they're ashamed of themselves. And it's just that sometimes when we get around the people we love the most, the worst comes out. But they don't want that to be the thing that you remember. What is it that has brought you joy about those people? Take an equal, if not more, amount of time reflecting upon that, and that you want to see that, you want to be a part of that. I can cycle through each one of my siblings, and if I'm intentionally thinking about the parts of them that bring me joy and happiness, then it's so much more likely that I'm going to see those qualities when I'm with them. It's so much more likely that my mind will notice what I put my mind on notice with. I said, you know what? Remember that time they made me laugh. Remember the joy. Remember the way that they love to give advice and how you could take those nuggets. And, oh, what about that other one? Remember how they're always trying to play games and they're so good at games. I can't believe they're so talented in games. Every person that you come in contact with, they have amazing qualities. So how is it that we stop at thinking of the things that go wrong or we think about that all with a sense of fear? And how is it that we do this sometimes backwards or just wrong? Like sometimes we automatically reflect on what's going wrong. So I kind of like tweaked that, right? Like, okay, so it might go wrong. What is going to be your reaction to it? But don't stop there. Then let your mind think about what goes right. In every family gathering, when everything went wrong and a big blow up happened, before, after, and during that, there are things that went well. There were conversations. There was food that was prepared. There were moments of joy, moments of sharing. They went well. Search for that. Find that in your mind, as little and as big as those things are, and then highlight them. Let it grow before you go into your next space. That also goes for our little things that happen every single day. Think about the things that you enjoy the most. Anticipate them. Don't build them in your mind to be more than they are, but rather think these are the moments that I want to find. I'm going to be curious about them. I'm going to be intentional about looking for them, and even more so, point them out. What an amazing thing when you could point out people's positive things and be like, oh, I always remember how delicious the thing that you make every year is, or how thoughtful you are about your gifts, or how kind you are about your compliments, or how beautifully you put together the decor, or on and on and on. What if you could be the person that not only prepares properly for the things that could possibly go wrong, but what if you could be the person that prepares for what could go right? I think about what Russ Sabella said when he was when he was on my podcast recently. And he said, people's history has gotten such a bad rap. It's like, oh, their history. We have a history with them. But there's a lot of great things in people's history. There's a lot of joy and peace, and there's a lot of wonderful things that they've done to get through challenges. That is also their history. You have history in your family. You have history of amazing, great things. Let that history fill you up, and let that history lead you into your activities. Plan ahead. Plan your actions. Plan your ability to be your best self, and plan even maybe ahead of time how you're going to highlight the things that people do that are great. And then plan how you're going to have new eyes this season to find those things in every single moment. I have absolutely enjoyed my family so much more when I've been able to enjoy them, the people they were meant to be, the person that I see when they're their best, and then I highlight that memory even in the moment so I can remember it later. Write it in my hope notes that I keep every single day. I write a little hope note, my homework, my hope work, I call it. It's my homework, but it's my hope work, right? Because I write down a moment that I treasure. I'd rather use my imagination in my favor and then plan out how I want things to be, and then execute that for myself. We're not planning how we want others to act so we can be disappointed. We're planning how we're going to be, and then we're able to affirm that by our own actions. Now, that's being intentional. That is the way to conquer toxic interactions. And that is what will work for you, because it's the way our mind works. Our mind likes to plan. It just stops us from so many little mistakes and so many things that we wish we wouldn't have said. It's going to happen though. So that comes to my second suggestion, and that's take a beat. Take a beat and choose and plan to take a beat when necessary. I learned this take a beat thing from my sister, who's a performance coach and been an actress for a long time. And I love it so much because it's more than just taking a minute, take a second. If you've watched the new Wicked, it's like a clocks something. You guys all know what it is, but it's just give me a minute. You don't even have to ask for it. You can invite that into your own mind of saying, sometimes I need to take a minute. And my sister explained it to me right about the time when I was doing my TEDx. And she said, when you have to take a beat. And I said, no, I don't actually know what you mean. And she explained that it's an intentional pause in a conversation for a purpose. It's an intentional pause for people to think, for you to take a breath, for you to take a minute. And then when everyone takes a beat, it kind of like shifts whatever is happening, and it shifts it to the place that it needs to be. That might be on stage in a movie, whatever. But I like thinking about it now when I'm in public, being like, oh, let me take a beat. And I take an intentional moment. And then in that moment, what shift do I need to make? What shift do I need to make right now? I'm not going to take a beat and then come back with even more big energy if that big energy is not working. I'm taking a beat so I can reevaluate what I'm going to say next. So I say next what I need to, or stay quiet if I need to. Man, I think if we all practice that more often, peace would be so much easier. I mess up with this, you guys, especially when it comes to my grown children. I cannot even believe how I feel kind of entitled to say whatever I want about, I feel indignant and very passionate about this, and I should be able to say this to my kids of all people. And then I have to reel it back sometimes and be like, actually, no, I should have been able to have a lot more patience or a lot more caring or a lot of more tact or a lot more sensitivity. And hey, I hope that they have grace for those times when I mess up, but I want to practice this season taking a beat. And I think I'm going to be able to do it. I'm already practicing it an awful lot, but I think I'm going to be able to do that more often this year for sure. And the next thing is something I talked a lot about. I would say, I don't know, my earlier podcasting. I've talked about it a lot actually when I'm a guest on podcasts, and that is choosing our vibe. I did a little work packet on this choosing your vibe situation, and actually put it in my journal at the beginning, just kind of like for people to keep in mind that they need to do this. Choose the person you're going to be before you go in, and you be the one that intentionally moves the mood of a room, rather than walking in and being like, oh, there's a vibe. Oh no, what is that vibe? And we all got to react to that vibe. What if you were that vibe? What if by walking into the room, things happened, and not in a scary, like, oh no, she's coming, in a great and amazing way? What if you were the one that were like, oh, when they walk into the room, people just want to smile. They want to be happy. What would that look like for you? This is a very personal question. It's different for everybody. Now, I got together with my solution-focused student mentors this very last week for our training. And I have to tell you, the training was later than it normally is. Within my program, I always have students, I call it the Solution Squad, that help me with school culture. And I've talked about it at many of my functions, how I have solution-focused mentor leaders. I bring all these sixth graders in, and they're from different walks of life, different groups that they hang out with. And it's a little bit cliquey at this point. They're kind of like hanging out with who they know. And I already get together and have them all go around and say why they've been in this program. But then I do an activity to help them identify their strengths and their attitudes that they already have within them that they can bring out when they work with the younger kids that they're going to be mentoring. And this isn't something that most of them have ever thought of before. They might think of the things they need to say and what they need to do to be able to be a great mentor. But have they thought about the vibe that they bring? Have they thought about the person that they want to be when they walk out on that playground? I talked to them about the fact that before they meet with students, something might not have gone well. They might not have got a good grade on a test. They might have fumbled something. They might have felt unsure about something. But they can, in that moment, take a breath and choose what kind of person they want to be before they go out and face those students. And I teach that because I believe we should do that for ourselves. So the training always ends up that they all begin to kind of look at me differently and to be like, what is she talking about? Choosing my own attitude and choosing how I'm going to move forward. I call it a hope-focused attitude, right? You'll see that I write about it in my book when I'm writing those chapters. I'm just, oh man, writing is a thing, you guys. It takes a lot when you're writing a book. But I have a whole chapter on this where I talk about choosing your attitude before you go into your situation. I feel like it's so important for solution-focused coaching. And in this case, in the training, I had a list of all kinds of different attributes that people might put forward, but I call them attitudes, and said, why don't you choose the things that you believe are your own gifts already? And I loved looking through the papers afterwards and walking around and talking to them as they chose their words: helpful, caring, understanding, funny. Uh, what rings true to these humans that I work with? And I want to start there. I want to start there because attitude is everything. It's everything. Nonverbal communication is everything. And we go through that too. But isn't it though? If whatever our attitude is, it's going to show all over us, even if we don't want to. Even if we're trying to have a smile. You've been around those people where they have a smile and everything else, but something's just off, their attitude. It makes you feel very like you can't really connect with them. If you had that feeling, look, it happens if we are not in sync with who we are on the inside and we're not choosing who we want to be and then projecting that. When it's off, if we're living in a place of fear, frustration, and then we walk into a place trying to show like we're happy and open, people will sense it. Until everything evens out, they're going to sense that something's a little off. You could avoid that because you can take a beat, like we said before, and you can say, no matter where I'm at right now, I'm going to choose the attitudes that I know work for me, that I know ring true to who I am and really is the person that I want to be. And when you say, what is the most helpful attitude that I can put on right now? Just like putting on this warm and cozy coat. When you put on something, it's going to become the vibe that I'm putting out after putting on this coat is totally different than I would have just kept on my t-shirt, right? Then it's a different vibe. But I wanted to put this coat on because it's wintertime. Look, our attitude is just as deliberate, if actually more so, I would say. We want to be deliberate about the person that we are. And so then out of all of the attributes that we have, even a higher level is when we say, what is the most useful attitude to me to bring into this place right now? Which one of those? In some cases, it's I want to be curious. And that's the most important thing because I know that all of these people I haven't seen for so long and they have so many things they want to tell me. If I'm not so careful, I might be the one that takes up all the space talking, and I don't want to do that. Therefore, curiosity is what I'm going to wear. For the next person or even the next event, you might take that coat off and put something else on and say, oh, for this event though, I want to show a sense of excitement. I know that in the past, I might have just kind of seemed like I'm tired and I have kind of walking through it today. No, I want my energy to be high. I want to be excited. I want to be able to share. This is one of those times when I do want to share and I don't want to shy away from a conversation where I could share a story. That's a deliberate choice. And if that is your choice, then you put on that excitement as you go in. So therefore, that will be the thing that leads you. Look, it will, if you don't do it, the disconnect that happens, it allows you to maybe miss amazing opportunities to connect with people, miss amazing opportunities for them to see the real you or the person that you at least really would like them to see, the person you want them to see. And that is up to you. Look, you have the power in this. All right. You don't have to be leaning into every single negative thing. You actually, in your choosing, you are actually choosing control. That's the thing I love. So going back to the training, I allow a student to go through that and I see a transformation. I begin to see as they talk with others and they talk to me, I begin to see them being proud of themselves. And then they might ask me, well, then what do we say? What do we do? And I said, no, right now, this first training is us getting our attitude right, is us leading with a hopeful, useful attitude. And everything else will follow because our body will follow that. And when we say things, it will automatically be different. So those are the things I would like you to do this season. And that way, I think that you're going to be very prepared to have an amazing season, no matter what happens, the ups and the downs and the unexpected and the flukes and the mistakes and just everything that happens in life being life. you will be prepared to walk through it with grace, happiness, joy, peace, all the things that you really want. Why? Because you planned ahead, because you took a beat when you needed to, and because you chose your vibe. And so let's do it. Are we ready? Are we hyped? Are we excited about doing this? Are we ready to be our best self? I hear you. Yes, you are. Okay. I've excited my own self about going out and being my best self. And I will talk to you a lot over this. Is not the last time you'll hear me before all of the season is up, because I have some exciting things to share with you individually. I have, like I said, lots of things I've written down that I want to share with you that I haven't got a chance to. So you'll get those episodes. And then I am going to do a wonderful series coming up here going into the new year called The Women of Influence that are out there making things happen. I want to interview some of them. And I've already began that process. Oh my goodness, you guys are going to love these interviews. I can't wait to share that with you. And also, I wanted to tell you, many of you listeners that have reached out, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for reaching out and caring about the fact that you know that I've been doing RAMP, and that the getting a RAMP accredited. Those of you that are counselors, you know that there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I want to thank those of you that have come alongside me to be encouraging. In October, I actually ended up turning in the application for it, because I realized as I was going through it that I last year did most of all of the work except for a few tiny things to put in the RAMP application. And after talking to other people at school, I was like, these are the things that our school has done. We've already collected the data. Can I put it in place for an application this year? And I was scared to. And I realized that really me wanting to do a whole nother year of collecting data and making sure every single thing was absolutely right was me being fearful. And there was another counselor friend of mine that said, "What are you scared about? If you've done everything that you need to do, why not put the application in? And if it isn't up to par, they'll tell you, and then you'll put it in again. But why have that work be to waste?" That was great advice. I appreciate that advice. Thank you, Frank. What I didn't realize is how many late nights I would need to have and how sleep deprived I would be. And I had to put many other things on the back burner, like the hanging out with friends and the everything and the sleep of it all. I had so many things. If you decide to put in a RAMP application, I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of work. Let's just say it is a lot of work. It's a commitment. Okay. And I committed to it and I did it. And I felt so light when I pushed the button to submit. It was just like, wow. It was like, whatever it is, it's out right now. And it was amazing. So I'll keep you posted. I don't really think they tell us what happens until around February. And like I said, I mean, of course, I'm going to hope for the best, right? But whatever happens, I'm prepared and continued. I just met with my team and talked to them about our goals for this year, and we're just keeping on with being ASCA. Keeping all of our ASCA things going and making sure that my program is running efficiently. So if we need to put in an application again next year, we won't skip a beat at all. We'll just put it in. So anyway, I hope all of you have an amazing Thanksgiving that's coming up. Those of you that are here in the States, that you enjoy your family. My hope is that you intend on finding peace, moments of peace and moments of gratitude. And that's what it's really all about. So I'm grateful for you. And until next time, live solution focused. Bye-bye.